Hello, this is Red, and I was the winner of week 114B of the cellblock Scorch. The prompt was an image of a grave covered in vines. This is a standalone piece. It ends on an open note, and yeah, that's all there really is to say. Reading this is giving me like such flashbacks. I'm reading this and I'm like, ooh, mental damage. Like, it's not actually that bad, but it's hurting me deep in my soul, you know? Anyways, this is Even Trees Die. Death was a fickle thing. Emily knew this better than most. Living in a funeral home was interesting. While her mother and father thought it was nice to work from home, Emily found the whole experience unsettling. From the time she was old enough to understand what a funeral home really was, the Ginger had always been unsettled being anywhere in the house. It didn't help that her family also owned the graveyard. That was probably why she spent so much time in the greenhouse, a place so full of life. It was interesting, though. You got to see the other side of these so-called perfect families. A disgruntled and grown child who yelled about how their parent didn't deserve such a nice grave, a freshly widowed woman or man who say they're so glad that their spouse is gone. There was always someone who wasn't happy with the dead. Or so Emily thought. Hannah Arbor wasn't like that. She died almost 2 weeks ago. The brunette had hair dark as tree bark, and her eyes were almost the color of honey. She was also very small, barely 5 feet tall. No one in town knew very much about her. All they knew was that she was astonishingly beautiful, that she cried when someone stepped on a bug, and that she always had taken care of the plants around her. Well, they knew one more thing. The entire town knew that she was murdered, and that one of the trees in her greenhouse had been set aflame. Emily knew that the tree that was set on fire had been Hannah's favorite, Acornus florida. Hannah used to say, in a voice that was like she was talking about something so unbelievably holy, you couldn't disrespect it if you tried. Then she would lead Emily to another part of the astoundingly large greenhouse and ramble on about how when she died, she wanted to be reborn as something red and green, like Christmas. Hannah Arbor had been incredibly kind, and her funeral showed that. The family that came into town all had the ethereal beauty that Hannah had. They also all seemed to appear out of nowhere. Not a single car had been parked in the lot of the hotel they had stayed at. Heck, no one even saw a taxi. Not a whispered rude comment, no declaration of hate that had happened so often at funerals had happened at Hannah's. Though the family had all come to Emily specifically, all offering their condolences and saying they knew how hard it would be to take her place. One boy, who was maybe 17, had come up to the Ginger and proudly declared that she had stolen his birthright. Emily had asked what he meant, but he sneered at her and started yelling about how she was unworthy before a very tall and buff Nigerian man had all but dragged him away, talking to him the whole time he had him in his grasp about responsibility. He had always wondered about the man, who later introduced himself as Acacia, had meant when he apologized, saying, "Don't worry about Lamine. He's too young to understand that Hannah chose you." Emily had tried to ask again what that meant and was told, "You'll know when the time comes." Emily had been present as Hannah's will was told. Apparently, because her family was so vast and spread all around the world, it was easier to do an old-school reading of the will rather than to send each individual what they had gained from her death. That was when she was told she would be in charge of Hannah's greenhouse, the older woman's most prized possession. When the service had ended, most of Hannah's family had left town just as suddenly as they came. It was almost like they hadn't even been there. Lamine, however, was still a constant pain in Emily's side, so when the vine had started to grow, both unexplainably and incredibly fast, over Hannah's gravestone, she almost thought of asking the rude and immature boy about it. Until the leaves grew in. They were red and green, like Christmas, and were the exact vine Hannah had always said was her favorite, poison ivy. That was when everything clicked. Her family, who were all too beautiful to be real, and had names that all related to plants somehow, the way Hana would look at a wilting plant and just know what it needed. Emily had never believed in the town's stories about nymphs and fairies really lived in the forest around the town until that moment, and now she was in charge of a nymph's sanctuary. That was so rough, and I'm so sorry. Wow, you could tell I was like 15 when I wrote that. Shade thrown on myself fully, willingly. Dear God, never want to read that again. Whew. Fun idea. Interesting execution. Don't write like that anymore. Anyways, don't have a whole lot to say about that. Hope some of you enjoyed that. And keep that fire burning.
The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. Links to all our projects, including Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Patreon, and Ko-Fi, can be found on our link tree, posted in each episode description. Follow us on Tumblr or Instagram to see the prompt of the day before the episode drops, and a quote from each Scorch the day after. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon. There, you can access the Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to our embers as well.